Ever finish an edit and it's just not landing emotionally, even though every cut looks flawless? After 20 years of cutting broadcast TV commercials, I know that getting emotion to land doesn't just happen by using the right shots. It's built cut by cut. So in this video, I'll break down a scene from Interstellar, and I'll show you 6 editing techniques they used to build real feeling into the scene, and how you can use them to do the same in your next edit. To start, I'm going to show you the one big thing that will kill your chances of hitting the emotion you want. So when I watch this scene from Interstellar, I feel loss, heartbreak, the pain of regret, and even the love of a father for his kids. And that's not by accident. I guarantee you, editor Lee Smith and Christopher Nolan knew exactly what they wanted me and you to feel before they ever started cutting. But most editors, myself included, when I started, we jump into the timeline without deciding what we want the audience to feel. That mistake will always come back to bite you. So before you build your next scene, take 5 minutes to pick an emotional target first. Then everything else, the shot selection, the rhythm, the sound, should flow from that decision. And if you want to dive deeper on emotion or my other top editing criteria, grab my free guide at the link in the description. Now let's break down those 6 techniques that made this scene hit so hard. Technique 1. This moment when Cooper watches decades of messages from his kids and realizes how much time he's lost sits right at the midpoint of Act 2 in classic 3-act story structure. In Act 1, we meet Cooper and learn his goal, which is to leave Earth, find a new home for humanity, no big deal, and one day return to his family. But in Act 2, these challenges pile up and he faces tougher decisions as the stakes rise. This scene comes right after the cruise trip to Miller's planet, the water planet, where 23 years pass on Earth, where his family is, while only a few hours pass for them.
Messages span 23 years.
Play it from the beginning.
That's the physical consequence of Cooper's choice to leave. But watching the messages is the emotional consequences. He's been gone so long, he's missed his kids growing up. And now the story shifts. So this scene is really the emotional midpoint of the whole film, because before this scene, the tension is largely external with survival, logistics, the mission. But after it, the tension becomes internal: guilt, regret, isolation. That's why this scene hits so hard. It's the turning point that makes everything personal. So technique 1 is to simply keep the entire story structure in mind when you sit down to edit your scene. That way you can align your editing choices with the story's overall emotional arc, making your scenes hit much harder. Now let me show you the second technique that makes this scene so powerful. Technique 2. So what happens in this scene? First, there's a setup. Cooper sits down to watch the messages. There's hope and maybe a little curiosity. Then there's an inciting incident. His son Tom appears, and for a moment things feel good, but as more messages come in and time jumps forward, the emotion starts to build. The midpoint of this scene is a real emotional gut punch when Tom shares that his grandfather, Cooper's dad, has died. And then Tom says he'll stop sending messages, and suddenly the weight of lost time hits Cooper, our protagonist. And finally, the climax of this scene, Murph's message full of anger and heartbreak. And in just a few minutes, we move from hope and curiosity to devastation. That's the power of story structure even within a single scene. So technique 2 is to look for that arc, setup, rising tension, and climax, and shape each scene like it's its own little story, and you'll make every moment hit so much harder. Now let's look at one of the most important techniques to draw out emotion. Technique 3. When we watch movies, we often feel what the characters feel. The character becomes our stand-in. Editor Lee Smith knows this, which is why he holds on long shots of Matthew McConaughey and lets us sit with those emotions. There are several moments in this scene where we hear the message on the soundtrack, but we're watching Cooper's face. The emotion doesn't come from the words or audio per se, it comes from the reaction. Every message from his kids carries a weighty emotion, and because the edit locks in onto his face, we feel every one of them. That's the power of reaction shots when it comes to emotion. So technique 3 is when you're editing, carefully look at all of the reaction shots you have access to, and if you find one that really says something, try holding on it and letting the audience audience feel with them. Now let's look at a cutting pattern that can really draw out emotion. Technique 4. The first shot of the scene starts slow. We're on Matthew McConaughey for a long time just listening to what's happening off screen. Then as the messages start to pile up, the edit picks up speed, and then right at the emotional high point, the rhythm drops back to stillness. We cut to one long shot of his daughter speaking. That contrast between speed and stillness helps make the ending so powerful. So technique 4 is to experiment with rhythm. Hold on moments that need space, speed up when tension builds, and use contrast for maximum emotional impact. Next, I'm going to show you one thing that can do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to emotion. Technique 5. Hans Zimmer's score in this scene starts as a soft, steady pulse, carrying emotion without overpowering the moment.
Play from the beginning.
But my favorite part is actually when the music stops. Zimmer and Lee Smith use silence as a transition, and it's something that editors should consider using more often. When you cut the music at just the right moment, when it fits the story and emotion, you reset the audience's focus, and it gives them space to breathe and process before the next emotional hit. Here, when the score drops out, we're left in silence with Cooper, just the faint sound of the video ending. The silence also makes space for a new music cue to fade in, which perfectly matches the mood of the scene's final moments.
Hey, Dad.
So technique 5 is to think about stopping the music to make room for an emotional moment. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't adding more, it's taking something away. Next, I'm going to show you one last subtle but powerful technique to enhance the emotion in your edits. Technique 6. Notice how the scene starts wide on Cooper, and as the emotion builds, we move closer and closer to him until we're in a full close-up at the climax. Even the shots of the kids follow this same pattern, drawing us in as the stakes rise. You might not even notice this consciously on first viewing, but you definitely feel it. That gradual move toward intimacy mirrors the rising emotion of the scene. So the closer we get to the characters, the more we connect with what they're feeling. So technique 6 is, as the emotion ramps up, think about getting closer to the characters. Try it in your next edit. It's one of the simplest, most powerful ways to make your audience feel more deeply. And if you want to learn more about emotion, you should grab my free guide at the link in the description. Now you have 6 techniques to build emotion into your edits, but they simply won't work if the music isn't aligned with your target emotion. So watch this video to learn my 5-step system for picking the perfect music for any video. Happy editing.